Hello everyone and welcome. Today we are diving deep into a story that has captured the attention of millions of Nigerians and people across the world. It's a story about a man, a movement and a legal battle that seems to have no end in sight. We're talking about Nnamdi Kanu. For those who might not know, Nnamdi Kanu is the leader of a group called the Indigenous People of Biafra, or IPOB. This group has been at the forefront of a campaign for the independence of the southeast region of Nigeria, a place they call Biafra. This is a conversation that has deep roots in our history, and Kanu has become its most prominent and vocal advocate in recent years. So, how did all this lead to his detention? Well, the journey has been quite a long and complicated one. Nnamdi Kanu was first arrested several years ago and faced charges related to his activism, including treasonable felony. He was granted bail under specific conditions, but later left the country. Fast forward to 2021, and the news broke that he had been arrested again, this time in Kenya, and brought back to Nigeria in a manner that his lawyers and many others have described as an extraordinary rendition. This event sparked a new and even more intense chapter in his legal saga, bringing him back into the custody of the Department of State Services, where he has remained ever since. Now, the reasons for his arrest are tied directly to his activities with IPOB. The Nigerian government views the group and its leaders' calls for secession as a direct threat to the country's unity and sovereignty. They have accused him of inciting violence and promoting an agenda that could destabilize the nation. On the other hand, Kanu and his supporters argue that they are simply exercising their right to self-determination, a right they believe is recognized under international law. They see his detention not as a matter of national security, but as the suppression of a political opinion, which creates a very tense and polarized atmosphere around his case. This brings us to where we are today in August 2025 with Nnamdi Kanu still behind bars. His continued detention has become one of the most talked about issues in Nigeria. It's a topic that fills the airwaves, dominates social media conversations, and has led to sit-at-home protests that affect the daily lives of millions in the southeast. The big question on everyone's mind is simple. With all the court dates and legal arguments, why hasn't a final decision been made? Why is he still in detention? The answer, as we will explore, is tangled in a web of complex legal arguments, judicial decisions, and perhaps a bit of politics. The primary reason Nnamdi Kanu remains in detention, according to his legal team, is a major legal roadblock. His lead counsel, Chief Aloy Ejimakor, has been very clear on this. He argues that Kanu is essentially being held without any legal basis because the judge who was handling his case, Justice Binta Nyako, officially stepped down. Back in September 2024, the judge issued what is called a recusal order, meaning she formally removed herself from the case. Ejimakor's point is that once a judge recuses herself, she can no longer make any decisions on that matter. It's like a referee leaving the field. They can't come back to award a penalty. This recusal is the real game changer in this legal chess match. Because the judge has stepped down, his lawyers argue that she is now functus officio, a Latin term that simply means her official duties in this specific case are over. Therefore, any action she takes afterward, like setting a new date for a hearing or even adjourning the case indefinitely, is considered null and void. Think about it. If the person in charge says they are no longer in charge, how can they continue to give orders? This is the core of the argument that Kanu's detention is currently unlawful because there is no valid court or judge with the power or jurisdiction to preside over his trial. Then there's the issue of the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land. The Supreme Court had previously made a ruling that, according to Kanu's lawyers, should have led to his release on bail. However, they argue that the lower courts have not complied with the spirit of this decision. This non-compliance adds another layer of frustration and complexity to the situation. It creates a perception that the judicial process is being stalled or even ignored. When decisions from the highest court don't seem to result in action, it raises serious questions about the rule of law and whether all citizens are being treated equally under it. To make matters even more complicated, Kanu's team had also filed a formal complaint of judicial misconduct against Justice Nyako, which remains unresolved. This unresolved complaint hangs over the proceedings, creating more legal tangles. So, when you put it all together, the judge's recusal, the questions about jurisdiction, the non-compliance with Supreme Court directives, and the pending misconduct complaint, you start to see why things are at a standstill. It's a legal puzzle where key pieces are missing, leaving Nnamdi Kanu in a state of indefinite detention without a clear path forward in the courtroom. It's a situation his lawyers describe as a constitutional crisis. Now let's look beyond the courtroom for a moment, because many people believe this case is not just about law, it's also deeply political. Some groups, like the Concerned Igbo Ministers Commission, have voiced strong opinions on this. They have suggested that there might be a political strategy at play, especially involving leaders in the southeast. Their claim is that some governors might be conspiring to keep Nnamdi Kanu in detention for their own political gain. The alleged plan is to time his release strategically to win political favor for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration in the southeast, perhaps just before the next election cycle heats up. This theory, whether true or not, highlights a deep-seated mistrust in the political system. The idea is that Kanu has become a powerful bargaining chip. His freedom, in this view, is not just a matter for the courts to decide, but a political tool to be deployed at the most opportune moment. This perspective suggests his detention is prolonged not because of legal complexities, but because his continued presence behind bars serves a political purpose. It turns his case from a straightforward legal trial into a high-stakes political negotiation where the timing of his release could influence regional alliances and voter sentiments. This political angle is further supported by the calls from Kanu's lawyer to move the trial venue. Chief Ejimakor has argued that the case should be transferred to a federal high court in the southeast, which is the region where the alleged offenses took place. This is not just a logistical request, it carries significant political weight. A trial in the southeast would be seen by many as a fairer and more transparent process, taking place on home ground rather than in Abuja, which is perceived as the center of federal power. The resistance to this logical step feeds the narrative that the current setup is designed to maintain political control over the outcome. Ultimately, the line between law and politics in Nnamdi Kanu's case has become incredibly blurry. Is his detention a result of a broken legal process, as his lawyers argue, or is it a calculated political move, as some observers claim? It could very well be a combination of both. When a legal case carries such immense political consequences, it is almost impossible to separate the two. This is why the situation remains so tense and unresolved. Every legal delay is interpreted through a political lens, and every political statement is seen as an attempt to influence the judicial process, leaving the public to wonder where justice truly lies. As the legal and political drama unfolds, the calls for Nnamdi Kanu's release have grown louder and more widespread. It's not just his direct supporters anymore. Major socio-cultural organizations like the Apex Igbo group Ohanaeze Ndigbo Worldwide have stepped forward to demand his freedom. They have publicly stated that there is no sufficient reason for his continued detention, describing it as a moral burden on the Nigerian government. When a respected group like Ohanaeze speaks, it carries a lot of weight, signaling that the concern for Kanu's situation has moved from the fringes into the mainstream of Igbo leadership and thought. These calls for release are often framed as a pathway to peace and stability, especially in the southeast. The region has been heavily impacted by the ongoing situation, with frequent sit-at-home orders that cripple economic activity and disrupt the lives of ordinary people. Many leaders and citizens believe that releasing Nnamdi Kanu could be the first step toward de-escalating tensions and opening a door for genuine dialogue. They argue that holding him indefinitely only fuels resentment and strengthens the resolve of his followers, making a peaceful resolution much harder to achieve. His freedom, they suggest, is key to restoring normalcy. The government, however, remains firm in its position, citing national security concerns. From their perspective, releasing Kanu without a trial could be seen as a sign of weakness and might embolden other secessionist movements across the country. This standoff creates a difficult dilemma for the nation. On one hand, there is the principle of the rule of law, which demands a fair and speedy trial for every citizen. On the other hand, there are the government's responsibilities to maintain national unity and security. Finding a balance between these two is the great challenge that Nigeria faces today in this particular case. So what's next? The future remains uncertain. The legal path is blocked, the political will for a resolution seems absent, and public pressure continues to build. The case of Nnamdi Kanu is no longer just about one man. It has become a litmus test for Nigeria's justice system, its commitment to human rights, and its ability to manage political dissent peacefully. How this story ends will say a lot about the kind of country Nigeria aims to be. Will it be a nation governed strictly by the rule of law, or one where political considerations can keep a man in indefinite detention? As of today, August 7, 2025, the nation watches and waits.